Yes, it is started. So this is our law of diminishing returns. Now we'll try to convert this into a graph. Now I hope all of you have got this table. So I'll be removing the table for your, of course, I will have a table of my own that will be visible to me also. But for you, you will be seeing the graph as it is made. So now you can see the black whiteboard, and here we will try to draw the graph. We have the y-axis, and we have the x-axis. Now we have to go about, on the x-axis is the variable that we are measuring. So this is easy. We just divide it into, in fact, if you have a graph paper, you'll find it is already divided into equal parts. And that is what we do when we have a freehand paper as well. We divide it into equal parts. Two more and we are done. They are all, of course, the gap between them will be equal. If you have a graph paper, they automatically give you equal. So you just have to write here. What do we write here? Anyone?
Variables,
Number of labors, correct. So this is number of labors. And of course, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On the y-axis, what do we write? First of all, we have to make the similar distances. They are all equidistant. Of course, most of you have been able to make it properly, but for those who are still puzzled, it will be helpful. They are all equidistant. And what do we have on the y-axis? Anyone? We had number of labels here. What do we have on the y-axis?
Units produced.
Okay, so we have here units produced. Now, here there was no problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What numbers are we are going to write here? How do we decide that? That is the most only critical part of this making this graph. What units we are going to write here? For that, we need to go back to the table. Now the table, we have to draw here 3 graphs, not 1, but 3. So if we look at the table, we find that we have to draw TP, AP, MP. So for all, we look at the lowest, which is 0, and the highest, which is 72. Okay, so we divide 0 and 72. So we have to have 72 here somewhere. So if we make it 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, then we will have 72 somewhere here. So that is the way we inspect from lowest to maximum all the things that are going to come here, and we write here. Is that clear? So we will be starting with and we will be ending with this will be 20, next will be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So we will be ending with 80. Now there is no problem in plotting the graph. How do we plot the graph? Anyone can help us? Pick up any number from the total production. Anyone can help us how to plot the graph? No. So we tell you, you just look at the graph and we find that the graph has certain numbers 0, 10, 24. So what do we do? we first go for 0. So 0 is here at the origin. So there is no problem. Then we go for the next, which is 10. So here 10 is here, and here this is 1. So when labor is 1, it is 10. When labor is 1, it is 10. So it will be at this point. There will be a dot. So I will put a dot at all the points which I get on the graph. At 12, the labor is 2. Sorry, total 24. Labor 2, and this will be 24. This is 20, and somewhere in the middle of this, 24. Okay. Then we have 39. So on 3, we have to go to 39. So almost on the 4th. And here it will be 3rd. So we have 39. Then we have 52. So from here, we move on to 50, and slightly above 50 will be 52. Then we have 60. So we go for the 60 is with the 5th one. And 60 here will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six, 60. Sixth will be 66. 66 will be in the middle somewhere. Then we have 7th will be 70. This is 7th, and here 70 is at this point. Then we have 8th is at 72. So 8, 72 will be slightly here. This is also 72, same. And then we have 70. So we come back to this point with the 10th labor. So we have now got to just join this. With curved lines. A curved line which will join all the points. So we have now made the graph for, this will be the graph for EP, total production. Similarly, you have to make two other graphs. One for average production and the other for marginal production. Most of you have made it correct. We will now show you how these three graphs appear in the Any doubts? Anybody who is still unable to make a graph, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, can you please go back to the same slide which you have
yeah,
shown?
I'm going back to the slide. Don't worry. That is why I have disconnected it at the moment. Now go back to the slide. I have to open the slide again. Anybody who is still unable to make a graph, please let me know. I expect everybody to
That
make a freehand graph.
so that AP1 would be made in the same manner.
Yeah, all of them. And the numbers will of course change. You have to, instead of the TP numbers, you have to plot the AP numbers and then the MP numbers. So you will have 3 lines on the graph, and these 3 lines will appear. I will just show you how they will appear. And most of you have done it correctly. So that is good. But those who do not understand, they also must learn how to do it. Now, if we go back to the team and select it. Yeah, we are back with the slide. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is the graph. We have made this TP graph, as you can see here. This white line is the MP graph, and this gray line is the AP graph. Obviously, what they have done is they have put a circle for the TP, a box for the AP, and a triangle for the MP. So all these triangles, they are the points on which MP is plotted. Now we study this graph and try to look for the law. The law is hidden in the graph. The law of diminishing return. Now, what is happening as the number of labors are increasing? In fact, it is true for any variable input. As the number of any variable input increases, the TP increases initially till stage 1, where it increases more than the proportionate increase. So if you have increased by 1, it will at least increase by 1 or possibly more. Then if it increases after the first stage, in the second stage also it is increasing. But it is now increasing at a lesser rate than it was doing in the first stage. The rate of increase has decreased. But at the point of stage 1, 2 interesting things are happening. At the bottom, we can see that the MP and AP have become same. They have crossed each other. So where the MP and AP cut, they start decreasing. TP starts increasing at a lesser rate than it was doing earlier. Another feature happens where they cut each other is that the AP, which was growing faster than the AP, now starts growing lesser than the AP. AP is more than the MP after stage 1, after they have cut each other. So AP becomes more and MP becomes less. And this pattern continues till stage 2. At stage 2, again, some interesting things happen. The TP starts decreasing. It's still growing, mind you, but at a very decreasing rate. Here it was still increasing rate. Now growth is at decreasing rate. The MP becomes negative. Where the MP cuts the x-axis, the TP is maximum. So when MP is 0, which is here. When MP is 0, production is maximum. This is a very important concept. Please understand this. When the marginal production is 0, we have the maximum production. So for all production people who want to know how to produce maximum, where should I produce the maximum? They should target the marginal production to be 0. When their marginal production is 0, they will be producing the maximum amount of product at the most profitable rate. Otherwise, they'll probably be spending more money and getting lesser return on interest. Investment rather, not interest, ROIs. Then, of course, the AP starts decreasing after the MP becomes 0. Okay, so these are some of the inferences we draw out of the graph that is presented before us. And these are the law. This is the law of diminishing return, because it doesn't mean that if you keep on increasing, things will keep on increasing forever. It doesn't work like that. Okay. Now we look at the motive behind existence of a firm. Why do we establish a firm? And when we look at the motive, we will understand why we were trying to look at the total production is maximum at the minimum cost, because we were trying to draw profit where profit is maximum. Profit maximization is one of the important concepts or motive behind existence of firm. Any firm that you see around you, they will have the objective of generating a surplus, which is the profit. Now some questions arises. What about the NGOs? What about the not-for-profit companies? Well, if you look and study those companies closely, they are not for profit in one sense, but they are still trying to, their objective is to have profit, but not, the profit may not be the only objective. There will be other sub-objectives which take up precedence. So sometimes they may not make a profit because they have been given endowments, and they may work with other objectives, but still they are not liable to waste money, and they must also try to cut cost and try to increase their profit. Now, when we say profits, sometimes, in the books of account, there is profit, still the company is actually in a loss because they have not considered the economic profit, which will include the total economic costs to be subtracted, which means the opportunity cost and everything else, the cost of the owner working, all these will be important part of the motive behind existence of a firm. So marginal analysis that we have seen becomes very important because it is used to arrive at the profit maximizing output level, where I can get maximum profit. Where will I get maximum profit? Anybody? Where will I get maximum profit?
So when marginal production is 0.
Excellent. This everybody has to remember. And it also uses the concept of marginal revenue and marginal cost. So this we will see later on how this happens. Now, it's a beautiful thing in economics. You study once and you apply it 3 times. What you have seen as TP, total production, you can change it to cost, say total cost, average cost, and marginal cost. Same thing you can apply to revenue, total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue. So the same concepts apply in all three places, and they have the same understanding, same definition. When we say TPN minus TPN minus 1, we can say MRN minus MRN minus 1, we can say MCN minus MCN minus 1, all same. So we study it once and we apply it three times. So it's very important to understand these concepts, because then you will be able to apply it one after the other. So we will of course be doing it, all three of them, we will be doing it thoroughly. But right now, I told you so that you will understand why and how the concept of marginal revenue and marginal cost is. So where MR is equal to MC, we have this concept. Marginal revenue is the change in total revenue due to an additional unit of output. So this is again TRN minus TRN minus 1. And marginal cost is the change in total cost due to additional unit of output. Okay, so we now understand what are marginal costs and marginal revenue also. The same concept applies. You study the definition once, just change it, and you can remember it for the all three of them. Okay. Any problem? Let me know. So now we move on from law of diminishing returns to law of variable proportions. Law of diminishing return is clear. The returns keep increasing till a certain point. After that, it starts decreasing. Now, law of production function with two variable inputs. We had one variable there, only labor that we had varied. Now we, along with labor, will vary another input, like say capital or machinery or anything else. Or instead of labor, we can have machinery and capital. But two, all the rest, mind you, are still there. Without that, production will not happen. They are part of the production function, and we vary two and keep all others constant. Okay. Now, with two variables, we have two kinds of graphs. One is known as the isoquants, and the other is known as the isocost. So iso means same. So the meaning of iso is same. So in the isoquant, we draw a graph where the production output is going to be the same when we vary the two variables. And in the isocost, the same cost will be there on the graph when we vary the two variables. So these are the two graphs that we will be learning, we will be drawing, and we will be understanding. So obviously, when we look for profit, our prime concern would be to work out the cheapest factor combination to produce a given quantity of output. So this is a very important objective with which we start this study. We are trying to work out the cheapest factor combination, the two factor combination where the cost will be cheapest. So isocost will give us the cheapest cost, and isoquant will give us the quantity of output. So this technique is developed in recent years to show the equilibrium of the producer with two variable inputs. So at the end of the day, we have already seen consumer's equilibrium. We'll now see producer's equilibrium, where the producer, if we look at it properly, isoquants are very similar to indifference curve. So this is a table of production function with two variable inputs. Please note down this table. There are various combinations given of the two factors. Output is same iso quant, so same output. Output at all combinations is 100. When you have 12 labors and 1 capital, you can produce 100 units. When you have 8 labors and 2 capital, you can produce 100 units. 5 labors and 3 capital, you can produce 100 units. 3 labors and 4 capital, you can still produce 100 units. 2 labors and 5 capital, you can still produce 100 units. So these are various combinations. Now you have to make the graph for this. Let us see who can make the graph. I'll not give you more than 1 minute. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points to be plotted. You can do it on your sheet of paper. Take a pic and send it across. No problem. Already one hint is given. It will be very much like the indifference curve. Excellent. I have received one already. That is perfect. It never touches the y-axis and never touches the x-axis. So we have some people who are good. All of you should be able to do it. I have received only one, but that is correct, perfectly correct. Now let us see how the graph looks. This is the graph. Okay, you have two factors on the x-axis and the y-axis, and we have the points A, B, C, D, E, F. This becomes your isoquant line. The line which is drawn is your isoquant line. Yeah, I have received another one. This is also perfectly correct. Very good. So Prince is working hard. That is nice. Next, we move on to. Okay, Srishti has also sent. Yeah, this is also right. The shapes will differ as you have plotted the graph. So there is not a problem, but it will be like the indifference curve. Now we can have more than one isoquant in the same. Okay, I'm receiving more now. Fine, no problem. You can keep sending. If there is any mistake, I will let you know. If it is correct, I may not respond. So now we see that we can have more than one isoquant in the same graph. Obviously, what will be different would be the level of quantity. So if this is 100, another one could be 200, 300, 400. They will be all, none of them will touch each other. They will never intersect, they will never cross each other, but they need not be parallel. So this is called an isoquant map. You can see the production is 1000, 2000, 3000, and these are different isoquant 1, isoquant 2, isoquant 3. So number of isoquants representing different amounts of output are known as isoquant maps. Now we look at the marginal rate of technical substitution. Obviously, one factor is being substituted by another for it to give the same amount of output without affecting any change in quantity of output. So if we look at the factors X and Y, the MRTS in the first case, we do not calculate because it is not possible to. In the second case, 12 minus 8, 1 minus 2 minus 1. So we have 4:1. We ignore the negative signs. Again, 8 minus 5 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. 3:1. The next case, 2 and 1 unit of difference. So 2:1. In the last one, we have 1 and 1. So 1:1. These are the marginal rates of technical substitution. What you have to do is to subtract D and E, C and D. Of course, before A there is nothing, so it becomes nil. A and B, then you go 4:1. Of course, you have to ignore the negative sign. You have to just take the differences and convert it into the ratio. The difference between 8 and 12 is 4, and 1 and 2 is 1. Okay, so is this table clear? Marginal rate of technical substitution, which gives you the ratio of how one factor is being substituted by the other factor. Okay. In fact, we have another law here, law of diminishing marginal rate of technical substitution. So this rate of technical substitution, which was 4:1, has gone to 1:1. As it goes, combinations, as it is increased, it diminishes. The technical substitution diminishes 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the law which comes out of the marginal rate of technical substitution, because this is also diminishing. Now, there are certain properties of isoquants which we must learn and remember, and which are asked. What are the properties of isoquants? An isoquant curve slopes downwards from left to right. So as we go from left to right, it slopes downwards. Generally, an isoquant is convex to the origin. So if we look at the isoquant curve and the origin, we find all of them are convex to it. I'm sure you would have remember your convex and concave from your physics classes. No two isoproduct curves intersect each other. While there will be different isoquant curves in the same graph, that is why we have the isoquant maps, they will never intersect with each other. An isoproduct curve lying to the right represents higher output and vice versa. To the left, it will be lower output. So the one on the right will definitely be producing a higher quantity of the production. Always one isoquant curve need not be parallel to the other. It can be, but it need not always be parallel. It will not touch either X or Y axis. These are the 6 properties of isoquants which you will need to remember. Now we move on from isoquants to isocosts. The isocost graph is different from isoquant. This is a straight line which cuts both the x-axis and the y-axis. On the x and y-axis, we have the units or factor, different combinations. So at point A, we have 30 units of factor X. At point Y, we have 60 units of factor B. And at both points, when X is 0 and Y is 30 units, we get the cost to be 3000. And when factor Y on the X-axis is 60 and Y is 0, then we get also the same cost, which is 3000 lakhs, let us say. So 3000 lakhs will be the cost on all the lines on the line AB. At every point on the line AB, the cost of production would be 3000. Obviously, the factors of combination between X and Y would be different. At a lower point, the factor of X would be different and Y would be different. For the point, you need to draw parallel lines on the x-axis and the y-axis to find out what is the exact unit. Okay. Let me download the attendance before I forget it. Download attendance. Let me see if it is downloaded. Yes, it is downloaded. Fine. So now, like we had the isoquant map, we can have the ISO cost map as well. Here, on each of these lines, different costs are applicable. On line AB, 2000, E 3000, other P OP, MN 4000. Okay, they have not written these alphabets here, but all for these three different lines, we have different costs which we have to bear if we increase level of quantity. Now, to find the equilibrium of the producer, we simply combine the two graphs. Producer's equilibrium will be on the line or on the ISO cost, which is tangent to the ISO cost. You can see it is at tangent here. So at this point, the quantity would be same as on E1, E2, but the cost would be for AB. At other points at E1, the cost will increase to MN. At E2 also, it will increase to MN. So these costs will be more. So minimum cost will be at the point E, which is your producer's equilibrium. So this is how we arrive at the producer's equilibrium. Is this clear or is there any doubt? Please let me know. We have Is this clear? So now we know what is producer's equilibrium and how to arrive at the producer's equilibrium. Least cost combination or the optimal factor combination. Now we have two very important rules for anybody who aims to get into production. One is the rule for profit maximization. The level of output at which MR is equal to MC is the profit maximizing output. So how to maximize profit? Simple. MR should be equal to MC. Then we have the shutdown rule. If the optimal level of output average revenue is less than the average cost, in that case, do not indulge in production, shut down your factory because you will be making a loss. So average revenue should not be less than the average cost. If it is so, then you shut down. Okay, these are two very important rules, the rules of profit maximization and the rule of shutdown. So when we have to shut down the factory, when average revenue is less than the average cost. Simple. It makes common sense. Your average cost is not being covered by your average revenue. Forget about the total revenue. Then you should shut down. In fact, some say average variable revenue. That is also correct. because that is more important. Fixed revenue we can sometimes cover later on also when situations are better. Now we move on to the long run production function, but this we will do in the next class. If anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Sir, can you please explain again the producer's equilibrium graph?
Yes, yes. This is the producer's equilibrium graph. This graph is actually nothing but a combination of isoquant maps and isocost maps. When we combine them, obviously we are looking at a level of production. How do we get this level of production? Possibly where MR is equal to MC. There was, of course, one question which I ignored. Should we produce the maximum MR is equal to MC? Now, this is a question which arises because many believe that we should be slightly below that level, because beyond that level is a decrease. If you are producing at that level, it is critical. Slightly less means it is better. Here we look at the producer's equilibrium by combining the graphs. So we have the isoquant map and the isocost map. When we combine it, for a particular quantity of one isoquant, we find that if the isocost, the point at which it is at tangent to the curve, that cost obviously same on all the points. But if this curve is considered, then as soon as it leaves the equilibrium either on this side, the cost, the quantity remains same, but costs become more than, because it is not on the line AB. Same thing here, if it moves from this side, quantity is same, but the costs become more. Therefore, the producer tends to rush back to E. There is a pressure on him to move back to E because here the cost is minimum, and these are the factors, a combination, say 25 units of X and 50 units of Y, at which we have the equilibrium. So as soon as we increase the factor Y from 50 to 55, we will reach this point. Obviously, there will be another factor X here, but we find that the cost has gone up. So we rush back to E. And this is the point at which we have the best factor combination. That is why it is called optimum factor combination. And least cost, because this is the least cost combination for 1000 units, this point E is where you are going to pay the minimum. So this combination will give you the minimum cost. All other combinations, the costs to the firm would be more. Clear, or anything else is not clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Fine.
Sir,
Yeah.
can you please switch to MRTS?
Yes, sure. Yeah, this is MRTS. Tell me.
Yes, sir. So after this slide, actually I missed that slide, network issue की वजह से.
Oh. These are the properties of isoquants. And these are very important. They are usually asked in exams, so please don't miss it. What are the properties of isoquants? Simple question. And you have to write at least 5 of the 6 points.
Sir, can you please explain the fourth point?
iso product curve lying to the right represents higher output, and the one on the left is lower output. That means if you have isoquant map, which will have several isoquants drawn on them, then the one which is on to the left will be producing a lower level, say 1,000, and the one which is on the right will be producing higher level, which is 2,000. And this will be true
Yes, sir, got it.
for all cases. Yeah.
Like it would be same like we had in indifference curve.
Yes. Yeah, that is why we have written earlier only that there is a similarity with indifference curve. Although, mind you, these are different things, but there is a similarity. That is for consumption. This is for production. Any other questions? No? So we'll call it a day, and we'll see you tomorrow in the next class. Okay? Bye. Take care.
Thank you, sir.